Welcome to From Potential to Powerhouse podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Holland, a self-made female powerhouse investor, board member, and serial entrepreneur. First of all, thank you so much for being here. The fact that you're here means that you're driven and ambitious to become the best that you can be professionally, personally, and financially. As a builder yourself, you get it. It comes from within, that itch, the longing to do more, to be more, and achieve every dream and goal that you know that is meant to be yours. Every woman's journey is different, but for me, a good night's sleep was hard to come by until I could see my vision building into tangible form. Looking back on those first few years as a budding entrepreneur, it took guts and passion and grit. And as I began to build my startup into the multi-million-dollar success that it is today, I wish I had had access to some of the women that I'm talking to on this podcast to help me through the hills and the deep valleys. Right at this moment, you're sitting on a gold mine of potential, and together we are going to unlock it so that you can become an even bigger powerhouse than you already are. How do I know that? Because I've actually done it myself. Consider this. What if your current circumstances, as difficult as they may seem, are no match for your potential? What I realized as I started speaking to wildly successful entrepreneurs and women leaders is that their day-to-day habits and mindset were pivotal to hitting their massive success metrics. The parallel between how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, and how you see your circumstances is key in how you pivot or not to greatness. That is where this podcast, From Potential to Powerhouse, comes in. Together, we're going to save you light years in time on your mindset shifts for success by sharing our collective bumps, bruises, and wins, as will my successful guests such as Christy Hefner and Sally Krawcheck. The reason for this podcast? Because the road for all of us always looks so easy from the outside looking in. My goal was to pull back the curtain and show how the proverbial sausage is made. Consider the path of how each of us made our way to the success stage and how we can help you, the listener, get there faster, smarter, and with more tools in your toolbox. First, I'll share a little bit about my own story. Over the last 2 decades, I've built numerous businesses, growing them from the potential of a big idea to hundreds of millions of dollars. My most recent venture was founding and leading Hatch Beauty Brands, a beauty and wellness company in Los Angeles, which is a business that generated over $500 million in revenue in the first 7 years of starting it, all before I turned 44. When building Hatch Beauty Brands, we started with a big idea, what I think of as potential, so to speak. But where the real work starts is really in taking the steps to build it into the successful business that it was going to be. And frankly, from a lot of past failures and a lot of bumps and bruises, as well as award-winning success, I built a regimen of best practices on what got me here. I took so much longer than I think it should have, frankly. And I wish I had had someone like these podcast guests that we're speaking to and like yourself, where I could just reach out on the hotline and say, what do I do? One of my realizations as I started talking to other prominent women and high-flying CEOs and high performers is that actually none of them just landed in their position. Each of them had different stories, hard times, in some cases tough childhoods. In each case, they overcame personal obstacles or professional ones. My personal path was no fairy tale. I had a tough childhood. And frankly, my tough childhood gave me the fuel to get out and figure out a way to create wealth for myself so I could buy myself a ticket to move on. I changed my mindset and I changed my talk track. And I decided in my early 20s to start using my stories, which used to haunt me, to my advantage. I turned these stories into experiences to fuel my grit and my passion and my independence. And it made me feel less lonely because what I realized when I started speaking to other powerhouse women leaders is that each of them had their own version of my story. What drove their passion and their grit and their financial independence, in some cases, stories of heartache or shame or challenges at home, each of these became prevalent for them in shifting their mindset, shifting their life approach, and how they tackled the next big thing. What were, in my mind, at one point fear or dark times or heartache were actually this wake-up call. And it was something that pushed us past our self-imposed limits and sometimes life-imposed limits. And actually realizing this was so empowering for me. It rocked my world, and I hope it rocks yours too. My bottom line is that the premise is that you can really change anything you want anytime based on a mindset shift. And my hope is that you get as fired up as I feel when I hear the real life how I got here stories from each of these women, each of whom will share their personal and business breakthroughs, setting them each off to hit even higher levels of success. Each episode is more like an intimate conversation, so you'll be able to listen in and hear personal stories as well as challenges, making each of her stories our own story. Part sage wisdom and part best practices, nothing's off limits. So we'll talk about money, we'll talk about love and success and daily habits, all of which propel us forward. You can also obtain a free copy of our 4 daily habits essential to becoming a powerhouse entrepreneur reference guide. These are habits that I've personally used to up-level and create the life and business of my dreams. And if you're serious about stepping into the next phase of expansion, I find it crucial to make a commitment to really start a series of habits that really change your life and make your day-to-day optimized and up-leveled. And no worries, these first 4 daily habits that you'll get for free, they're 5 minutes or less, but it makes such a difference. Let's do this together. I look so forward to seeing you next week. High five.
Thank you for tuning in to From Potential to Powerhouse, Success Secrets from Female Leaders with your host, Tracy Holland. We invite you to tune in every week. Subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review it and share it with your friends. Visit our website and follow us on social media using the links in the show notes. Until next time, high five. You've got this.